And I asked you if you what would happen now if you guys went back there and played. You said you couldn't go back there.
I can't even go walk in there.
Yeah, it's like a whole life change has now occurred. I mean, you know, you guys have been together for a few years, right? Since '78, I guess.
79.
79. But now it's nothing's the same anymore, is it?
A few things are. The humour element sort of is to a degree. You know, my friends especially, I walk in after a 5-month tour and I open the door and the guy I share a flat goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, most popular man in the world." Which I reckon is pretty funny.
There's a certain sadness in the life change as well.
Sadness.
There is, I think there is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a melancholia, I think.
Yeah.
Because you know, if you drive past something like the Cricketers' Arms, you sort of, you know, you don't think about it except for sometimes you look at it and you remember that. Well, I remember that I spent nearly 4 years every week there playing. You know, and it would be impossible for me to just walk in there, even not even to play, but just to go into that hotel. And I would never.
Sit down and start.
Would never go in there, you know.
Yeah.
So that is kind of an area that basically sort of that's over now. You don't worry about it very much, but there is a certain element of sadness to it.
What do you
especially with the underdog situation too? You know, of you having really no expectations and you just you know, there is always that you haven't arrived anywhere. You're going through the motions. You know. Of trying to do whatever it is you're doing.
As you were when you were playing there, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And things go in stages, and you attain some level of success, and then the success grows, and it just keeps on going, keeps on having a snowball effect. And
have you appeared on television a lot there? Are you notarized in Australia or in Melbourne?
Oh, people know who we are.
The whole thing of being recognised too. I mean, I think Colin's tends to be more recognised than anyone because, I mean, there's probably more photographs. There's just more a focus of the group. But I mean, everybody tends to get recognised. But then you'll go to places where people just don't expect you to be. You know, and I've seen it. I look at you and I go, "Is that a guy? Nah, what would he be doing sitting here having a greasy meal in this thing?" And they just ignore the fact that they just don't believe it could be you. Whereas if you're wearing stuff that makes people think, "Gee, why is he wearing that weird stuff? I wonder who he is," you know, and then they take their second look and they might recognise you. And sometimes people take exception to the idea. There's a certain side of Australian humour which is like, you know, Colin gets people, you know, yelling out from cars, you know, "Hey buddy, write us a cheque for $1 million, will you?"
When you arrive back, people immediately have become your friend. You know, on first name basis. You know, you pull up at the lights in the car, and someone will just lean across and they go, "Hey, Col, when you get back?" You always feel like saying, "Oh, sorry I didn't ring you up and tell you, mate. You know, like, should have given you a call and said, look, I'm going to be arriving back at such and such, you know," and then there'll just be a pause from it and I'll say, "Yeah, doing well. Good car." You going to the races? And then you're off, you know. Just little things like that would never have happened before.
What about people that are closest to you? Family, friends that you live with?
It depends on who they are.
Yeah, it's made my father very proud. He used to say to me, "Why, you know, when are you going to get a proper job?"
Yeah.
You know, this sort of thing. And I wasn't allowed to play my drums when he was at home. You know, like I could play them when Mum was there, but as soon as Dad came home, I had to stop playing. And there was a situation where I'd be in a band and friends would come around to pick me up to go for a practice, and my father would go out and say, "Jerry's not coming today. He's got better things to do with his time." You know, he wanted me to stay inside and study, and I'd be inside crying my eyes out. So this sort of thing. This is when I was a young teenager. 19. Bawling his eyes out at 19. And the other day I went with my father to see his solicitor, and we were talking, and I told him about.
And you signed away everything.
I told him about the world tour that we're going to start in April, and he said, "Well, I don't suppose you'll be thinking about me when you're over there. You know, I'll be stuck here in the four walls, you know, doing my job here." And my father said to him, well, you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah. How about you, John? Did your folks want you to do something particular or be something particular?
They always sort of said they regretted buying me a bass guitar at one stage. Because I was sort of brought up a classical musician, started the piano and then learned the violin and did a music course in the violin and started playing rock and roll at the same time, so a bit of a conflict of interests, and so
Started
they
playing
didn't like the idea of me trying to make a living playing music.
What would they rather have you done?
Well, be a music teacher or something like that, you know. Sort of
Something
teach me
legitimate, you know.
with a bit of paper, you know, like a
Something safe.
The song "It's a Mistake" seems like a very heavy anti-protest, or a very protest.
Well, it's more. The way I look at it is, it's more the ultimate joke. You know, that's what it is. It's although no one's laughing except maybe some people up there who are watching us, going, "Look at these clowns down there. You know, they're going to blow it." You know, and it's just like basically for me is, you know, it's the it's you know, it's the last joke that anyone would play on anyone. You know.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate absurdity in life, you know. That's what I think.
Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive is a real fun song on if you look at it one way, but then on the other way, it's a pretty heavy statement too.
It's not so much heavy as just sort of having a bit of a laugh at yourself, or
the human factor.
yeah.
We're schizophrenic in all of us. I don't see that. I mean, I don't see that song as being heavy in any way. Actually, it's got a real sort of kind of gentleness about it.
It's like the ultimate, you know, when you go through school, you meet them all the time. It's someone who you know has got, you know, his heart's in the right place, but you know he's going to be a loser. You know, he's going to lose. He's going to, you know, he's got sort of ultimate belief that it keeps on getting sort of trodden on all the way through. You know, it's like when you're at school, you can tell who's going to be a real estate agent. But also
Socially inept.
Yes, it's a cross between and also he's concerned, you know, but it's like a cross between a nutty professor and you know, and Jekyll and Hyde, you know, sort of somewhere in between there, you know, slight plagiarisation of all of them.
They are, folks. He admitted it.
There is. It was overkill. It's like that song was. I related to it on that level more than anything.
Yeah, well, it can happen on the road or at home. There's no real. It doesn't really matter where it is. It's just. It is basically just that feeling of knowing that you should sleep because you need sleep, but your head keeps churning over, you know. And just as you get to sleep at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're just going into that whole sort of lovely sort of dream world at about 9 or 10, and you get a phone call, you know, that sort of we have to be somewhere. So you're sleeping at, you know, at all the wrong times, you know, and you're sort of nothing's really quite normal, you know. But it's also that sort of thing of being really aware of things of you know, organs in your body, you know, like your heart,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and your spleen, and sort of really
Precious bodily fluids.
your precious bodily fluids. Yes. Yeah, it's just it's quite a lonely sort of tune, really.
And that can happen at home or on the road. But
No,
I would think on the road.
anyway. I mean, I think a lot of people must get. I mean, this is the, you know, that's why Valium's so big, I suppose.
I mean, I found after the last tour that we did, my sleeping habits were really strange. You know, when I got back to Melbourne, you know, I'd go to bed, I'd be so tired, I'd go to bed at 11 o'clock, and then I'd wake at 4 in the morning, and my heart would be racing, you know, and I'd be heading towards the suitcase, you know, and panicking, you know, and bells are going off in my head, and I realised, wait a minute, you know.
Where's that room?
And it took me a couple of weeks to get sort of kind of back to normal. Falling asleep in the middle of the day, you know, odd hours and in odd situations.
Greg's lately become a
Of doing that on the road. He just, you know, I mean, we'll go, if you go visit someone, Ron might just sort of curl up in the corner and go to sleep.
Go to sleep for a couple of hours. Yeah.
While everyone else is having teas.
You're sort of you've sort of eased into the cut high wire all of a sudden with waking up with Jen and can you give me some thoughts about High Wire, about that song, that particular song?
Old song, that one.
Hmm?
An old song.
Had to keep it artificial resuscitation.
I can't remember actually. I can't remember really. It's so old now. Yeah, it's that sort of basically, you know, basically having wall-to-wall guttering in your where you live, or trying to put that in, sort of so that you feel at home no matter where you are.
Right. But living always on the high wire, which means a dangerous place to be, I would think.
Right, yeah, it is a bit of an edgy song. It's got an edgy quality to it, which is
Yeah.
it's sort of.
Alcohol's one of those particular drugs.
Keeps on coming back. There are no alcoholics in this band.
But it's one of those drugs that kind of where you do things that really isn't in your personality almost, or if it is, it goes way back. And people will say you did a certain thing and you don't, you just don't believe it. Like sort of breaking a door down to get in, or sort of, which is something that you would never ever think of doing. I can think
Something you've never done, though.
I think something I've never done. No.
Right, let's just clear
A couple of people we know have.
Yeah, right.
Who are the sweetest people, and, they get drunk and it's like you come home and they've destroyed your house, But it's just about that. Yeah, it's just a sort of song, High Wire. It's a sort of